My name is Mohit, as you can see on the slide. Good, we can see the slides. This is Donald.
Hi, guys.
So welcome to our session. 0 to 100 EventFinda comes to the Windows 8 store. Just a quick raise of hands. How many people here into Windows 8 development? A few guys. That's cool. How many people are thinking about getting into Windows 8 development? Cool. That's great. So hopefully, the journey we took, as we share our journey and the journey we took, hopefully it sort of inspires you. It sort of the learnings we had, sort of you can implement that into your projects, and so by the end of it, you can get out and actually build some really cool apps. Awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and switch that around.
7? 7, that's fine.
7, okay.
Cool. Bring that up.
All right. Awesome.
No.
Yep, that's us. All right. It's the wrong one. Okay. Let's interview. Cool. Awesome. Let's get going. EventFinda. So how many of us know about EventFinda? Just a quick raise of hands. All right. So that's quite a few of us. So EventFinda, a New Zealand startup, started in 2006, a company based around events. Essentially what they do is they help people like us find events of their choice. And they do this by enabling event organizers to list event, promote it, as well as ticket it. So it's quite a popular company. They've recently gone into this ticketing aspect of things, and that's where sort of they're disrupting the market there. So at a very high level, what we're going to look at today is this notion of sort of going from web to Windows. Essentially what we did, and essentially the journey we took, and how you can apply that into your projects. And the reason why I think this is important is there's an opportunity. So moving forward, as Windows 8 becomes more popular, what we'll see is more of these consumer-facing websites and services are now going to try to come to Windows 8. And at that point, you can hopefully apply some of these principles. So before we start, just a little bit of background. Trust me, it won't be too long. We won't make it too boring. So as I mentioned, my name is Mohit. I work for Datacom. I'm primarily in the CRM and Windows 8 domain. I'm not sure if the keynote piece you saw about the C-Lord, had the opportunity to work with that with some really awesome guys at work. And Donald?
And hi guys, my name is Donald. Again, I work at Datacom, mainly in the SharePoint space, building web apps, intranet and public-facing site. I'm also a hobby programmer. Recently got into Windows 8 programming. Yeah, and I do build apps in my spare time.
Cool, thank you, Donald. And outside work, we're great friends, and that's how we got together and actually built this project up. So the agenda for today. First piece, what we're going to look at is the design journey, all the way from customer engagement, all the way to conceptualizing the solution. We're then going to go into the technical piece, which Donald's going to cover, and some of the hurdles we came and some of the key learnings from there. We're then going to look at what's next with 8.1 coming through, how we can apply that, some of those pieces. And then finally, I want to leave you guys with some tips and tricks, in some practical terms which you can apply to your projects. The journey for us really started in December last year. So Microsoft set out this competition, build 3 apps, submit it to the store, and you can go in and win a Samsung tablet. At that time, it was worth like $2,000. So both me and Donald were super excited to actually go in and actually submit something to the store. And we actually both ended up building 3 apps each. And actually, what that enabled us to do really from there is just having that visibility of apps being on the store. It was really a conversation starter for us. Conversation starter in terms of having conversations with different businesses, different people, sharing ideas. And the EventFinda app was a conversation starter for us to talk to EventFinda. So here we are, a couple of guys sitting in our rooms and building those apps. And the next thing you know, we're sitting in a room with the CTO and the CEO. So it's quite exciting. It's also a very sort of a nerve-wracking experience for us. So there we shared our proof of concept app. Well, not a proof of concept, but it was the app on the store. So as you can see, it was quite a simple app at that point in time. You can see some events that are coming on the hub experience, the top level. We can go in and see some sort of information about the event. And it wasn't even that great. It was, didn't even have a description at that point. As you can see, the whole app is tailored towards getting people to the event. So it wasn't actually solving the purpose of actually finding out what the event is about. But they came back and they said, yes, we want a Windows 8 app, right? And they got excited. They got excited by the fact, with this new Windows 8 paradigm. They got excited by all the sort of making use of the full real estate, content before Chrome, all the good stuff you get out of Windows 8. And so from there, that's how we got to know the business. So here is a sneak preview of sitting in a room with the EventFinda guys. And so the app really enabled us to help them better understand Windows 8. So they're a traditional web-based company. They've been in the web domain for a while. Windows 8 was quite a shift in thinking. So having the app there, playing with the app, the whole sort of horizontal paradigm, which is quite different to the web paradigm, helped them understand Windows 8 and really sort of sparked ideas within the wider team. So the designers got excited, the technology officers got excited, these guys got excited, and so it was really around sort of how do we take that excitement and actually bring focus towards the project. So from then on, it was time to develop our key principles. And it was really around, first identifying who's going to be the typical end user for the app. Okay, so EventFinda, typically they have two types of consumers. So they've got a person who's coming from a search engine. So it's a friend, you've heard about an event, you've looked it up, and you've gone to the website to find something. And the other one is a discoverer, so a person who already knows about EventFinda, and they get onto the website and they actually just go there and just spend time discovering. Interesting stat, so they actually spend about 10 minutes average discovering events on the website. So we knew we weren't going to rebuild a search engine. What we were going to do is an app which is going to be made for discovery. And so with that, it was then around, building this vision statement for our project. And for us, it was this app is going to be great at discovering events in New Zealand. And actually, for some of us, it might seem like just a statement. But for us, it was really something that, the whole app is going to be, every decision we make from then onwards is going to be based on this vision. And it was very sort of contextual. It's going to be for New Zealand, and it's going to be for discovery. And so with that, we formed our key principles, which are quite simple. Let the platform shine. So we are XAML and C# developers. We built a native app. So we want to make use of that sort of, Windows 8 and the platform that, all the offerings it gives us. And also do not create the website. So we weren't going to, rebuild the functionality from the website. We were just going to focus on this discovery aspect of events. It was then time to reimagine the website. So here, if you look at a typical website, it's typically divided up into three pieces. So you've got the header at the top level. Generally has your search, some sort of settings to log in. You've got this global navigation. You've got the footer, which also, you've got a bit of the global navigation there as well. And these are important parts of the website, right? So a person coming in from a search engine, going to a specific page, should be able to still get around. And then you've got this other piece, which is the content piece, which is essentially the middle piece of a website. So here's an example. So you've got the stuff website. Again, you see that there. So what you see there is the content. Even the content is divided up into two pieces. So there's two columns there. You've got the primary, which is on the left, and then the secondary content, which is on the right. That's where you generally see sort of advertisements, sign up for newsletters, and that sort of stuff. Obviously, not the case for all websites. Here's the TVNZ website. So here you can see the similar paradigm there. And finally, here's the EventFinda website. Okay, so it's really trying to identify where the content is and actually trying to surface that up to the bigger real estate you get out of Windows 8. So with that helped us form our top-level groups. So here we've got the featured group, the popular group, and this week became today, tomorrow, and the weekend because of the extra real estate, the extra space we had. So really surfacing up that content. After we did that, it was then time to look at the different navigation patterns. So part of the guidelines, you've actually got two types of navigation patterns. You've got the flat system. which is essentially one or two type of content types and switching between them within different contexts. So a great example there is if you look at the Internet Explorer app, the content type is a web page, but the context, you've got the different tabs. Those are the different contexts of that page, but the type is the same. The other one is you've got the hierarchical system, and here you've got top level groups, and then you can start drilling down into different bits of information. And so that was quite clear. It was clearly that we want to have this top level group and start drilling deeper into details. So we went with the hierarchical system. And as part of the guidelines, you also have this sort of guidelines around how you can play around with those hierarchical systems. So here you've got the hub experience at the top. Following that, you've got the long list, which is your section page, and then you've got the event details page. A lot of us who have been in the Windows 8 domain, we always try to reinvent the wheel. We try to do different things. But it turns out this is actually kind of a lot intuitive because users already know how to use this. They already used other apps around it. And then you've got this notion of scaling versus filling. Do we want to scale the content or do we want to fill it, right? So a great example is the Windows Store app, which uses scaling. So what that means is, so because Windows 8 runs in different screen sizes, what that means is a store running on a small screen resolution is going to have the same sort of grid system, but the images are going to be smaller. But on a larger, what it's doing is just scaling up the images, but the actual look and feel of that grid is going to remain the same. And this is a decision really as a developer you can make depending on the content you have. For us, it was quite a simple choice. It was going to be filling. And the reason for that is, the events are created by, it's crowdsourced, so anyone can upload any image. So we don't want to, make those images larger and have it blurred out and really depreciate the experience you've provided. So it was then time to look at how do we prioritize our features. And as being developers, we often sort of go on and on about we can do this, we can do that, we can build this. But it was really around how do we prioritize that based on the principles we have mentioned earlier. One of the examples that we can share. So me and Donald, we came up with this concept of using augmented reality to look around events. Great for sort of a gimmicky thing, but not very usable, and not going to solve the discovery aspect of the app, right? So prioritize the features. So let the platform shine. So make most of the contracts. Use a search for searching events. Use share for sharing events, right? Very simple. Tiles. Primary tile. Make a live tile to entice the users with the content. Secondary tile to have them personalize the start screen and have deep links within the app for different users. And then multitasking. So here's another interesting one. With 8.1 coming through, you've got more support for multitasking. They've essentially, what they've done is, you can have more apps which you can have side by side. So moving forward, we want to make sure that multitasking is a key aspect of the app. So we went with full functionality snap view. Now, obviously, within your apps, if you're building something like that, it doesn't always mean that you have to go with full functionality. A great example is a music app. So you sort of snap it on the side, and it could go to the core functionality of just now playing music sort of thing. So it kind of depends on the context of what you're doing. And then support for portrait view. So a lot of the apps nowadays don't actually support that because obviously it's extra work. But because we want to make sure it runs on every device and every scenario where Windows 8 runs well, it was supporting portrait. And a lot of us don't think, but imagine you're in a bus and you've got a tablet. You might not want to have that tablet in landscape mode because you might hit the person next to you. So it's just it's more convenient having it portrait. So just scenarios like those. Do not create the website. So use a horizontal scroll paradigm, quite different to vertical. What Microsoft has done is they've done a whole bunch of research around what's more convenient for touch. And still trying to look for the answer why it is more convenient to have it horizontal for touch. But I think it might be something to do with going against gravity. So maybe on a longer term, if you're using gravity, going against gravity, it might be sort of a bit harder. And then use of the modern design. So make use of flat UI, flat icons, and that sort of stuff. So the next part of the piece was really this user testing. it's actually turns out is that it can be a very critical part of your app, and it's something that we always take for granted. We always think that because we've made it, it's going to be good, right? But it's always the perception of the end user that you need to look at. And it's really cheap to do. So what we did was we essentially, we did a sort of guerrilla-style user testing. We went to different people in a cafe, people that knew EventFinda, who didn't know EventFinda, people that used Windows 8, that didn't know Windows 8. Here's a couple of guys at work. Yes, I have taken their permission. And here's even different devices. So you've got, even the laptop users and the desktop users. So as we went on the journey, what we found was, the users were able to find their way around quite intuitively. And that's probably something to do with the guidelines that we first, that Microsoft set out and the fact we use them. The existing customers, what they thought was the live tiles complemented the existing newsletter that they had. And we also found that the snap view was more popular in desktop mode. However, users did not find an event which they would attend quickly. Okay, big problem for us. Didn't know search ever existed. And they were also having lots of clicks to go back to the top level of information. And they were also getting very distracted due to slow performance. The slow performance piece, Don will talk about in his bit, in the technical bit. Couldn't find an event which they would attend. So we have this filters at the bottom where we can filter events. Turns out that they never actually end up discovering them, even the users that were using Windows 8. And it's something to do with the fact that it's hidden and the fact that not all apps support it, so users don't actually always try and bring that out. So it was just a simple solution of just making it sticky there. Didn't know search existed. So Windows 8.1, we're seeing that the search, you can actually, as part of the guidelines, you can bring that onto the canvas now. And it might be something to do with the discovery of search. Again, not all apps support it, so actually pulling out charms, clicking on the search, and then finding out that the app doesn't support it, might be too late for a user to use. And so just bringing that to the canvas actually, helps the users. So we did the same. We brought the search to the canvas. Lots of clicks to go back to the top level. So here we've got the top global navigation, part of the guidelines. Users, again, never actually brought that out. So here's an example. So on the canvas, we see that we actually got those two buttons just to help them around to discover those, those hidden pieces in the app. Interestingly enough, as I tried Windows 8.1 that just came out yesterday for us, for MSDN subscribers, part of the new mail app, they've actually done something similar. So they've got this ellipse at the bottom, and they've actually also made sure that the app bars are more discoverable. Interesting. And I think one of the key takeaways for us as part of the user testing was really, UI hidden is UI that never exists. Make sure that if it's going to be part of your core functionality or primary command, make sure it's on the canvas or at least some way possible for them to discover that. All right, so hopefully I can show you a little preview. So the app was on the store Thursday last week. This is the first version of the app. You can go ahead and download it as of today. Please do. Hopefully the internet's all right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into my start screen and actually show you guys a little preview of the app. All right, cool. So I've got my start screen here. So here you can see I've got my live tile going. And the first thing you'll see is, so you've got those high-level groups. And you might notice the user white space. We decided to use that mainly because we want to surface up the content of the users and not distract them with any other sort of background images or things like that. All right, so we've got today, tomorrow, and this weekend. Now, I'm a user who's works on Monday to Friday, so I'm generally free around the weekend. So for me, this is the group that I would use the most. All right, so I can see all the good events that are coming out this weekend. All right, so I'm a bit lazy and I want to make sure that it's in Auckland. I don't want to travel too much. Cool, so I can target that, start filtering the content as I like. And I want to get into sports and outdoors. I want to see what's happening there. Okay, well, this kind of looks interesting. We'll see what that is. So the first thing you probably see is, this purple 30-degree skewed rectangle. Just something interesting that we brought in from a design perspective. Something very unique in the design can actually help users remember what your app, that your app is there. So we thought that element was there. You also see that same angle going across in all the commands and all the group headers at the top. So I can start flowing around. I can see that there's some description. The first thing I see is, you've got where it is, driving directions, all these commands on the canvas. These are key because they're primary to the content. It's got some description. I can see that there's some tickets. You can see some adult shows. I think I should be able to go to that one. Got some sessions. I can see there's some photos. Okay, hopefully they're not too bad. Okay, so we are running on a 3G connection, so let's try that again.
It's not helping it, isn't it? No,
Nope.
just get out of it.
All right, it works. Take our word for it. And you've got this related events, so you can keep drilling down and actually see other pieces. So here I can, and the other piece was, if you remember, going back to the top level. So here, just clicking on that command and actually being able to surface, to actually go around the app, different places without getting lost and without having too many clicks. Okay, I can, of course, snap this guy.
This has internet still connected.
I think it has internet, yeah.
Still.
Oh, right, okay, that's probably why.
Yeah.
So this machine we have does not have a network Cat5 cable, so unfortunately we have to go through the 3G. Okay, so let's kill the app. Let's try that again. Okay, that looks better. Can go ahead and snap that guy. I can see, I can do other stuff. I can run a PowerPoint presentation. I can go to any website I want and drill into different bits. And it just works on Snap View. And moving that forward in 8.1 is going to be quite easy to have that sort of scaling, horizontally. All right, awesome. So what I'm going to do now is pass it to Donald, who will talk a little bit from the technical piece. All right,
Sure,
let's
mate.
get your slides up.
All good.
Cool.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Thanks once again for joining us this afternoon. So Mohit walked us through some of the initial engagement and design aspects of the app. And what I want to focus on next is some of our key learnings, mainly from a technical perspective, and to help you guys out when you guys go out and build similar apps. Right. So here's a quick agenda of what we're going to discuss next. So we're going to talk about the different tools and frameworks we used. We'll talk about performance and why was that a key factor for our app, and as a matter of fact, for any app for that reason. We'll then look at some of the improvements / performance optimizations that we have made, and we'll wrap up with a quick summary of what we've discussed next. Okay. Right. In terms of tooling, it's a native app. We're consuming a REST-based API from EventFinda, built using C# and SAML. I mean, no particular reason for it apart from the fact that Mohit and myself was really comfortable with it. But hey, if you're coming from a strong web development background and if HTML and JavaScript is what you're guys most comfortable with, then definitely go ahead with that. It's it's also a first-class citizen in the Windows 8 development stack. We made use of the Caliban Micro framework, again, to help us implement the MVVM design pattern. Again, like something that we were familiar with. Of course, there is a whole variety of tools out there, frameworks out there. Like say, for example, Prism from the Microsoft Patterns and Practices. You got MVVM Lite. Not sure about any others. Do you know about any others?
No, actually, yeah. Yeah.
All right. So yeah, so there's a whole bunch of ones out there. Pick one that you're most comfortable with, and then stick on with it. Visual Studio and Blend did the bulk of the tooling for us. And we made use of some third-party tools and libraries like Callisto, WinRT Sample Toolkit, and yeah, JSON.NET. I mean, nothing new here. It's all stock standard stuff that you guys might already been using. If not, there's a lot of good documentation online that you can get you started really quickly. Right. Now that we got that underway, let's discuss why performance was a really key factor for our app. Now, I want to start this off by telling you guys a little story. So shortly after our build phase, we had our first demo with the EventFinda team, and for the demo we were running the app over a mobile connection. And man, we were in for a bigger surprise. The app was really slow. And that's my buddy Mohit banging his head on the desk. What we did notice was, users were getting distracted, waiting for the app to load, and that's probably the last thing that you want you guys to happen to your app. And which really got me thinking, right? So if I were to use the same app like while traveling in a bus or walking down Queen Street, I wouldn't want to use something which is slow either. So clearly there was a problem to be solved there. What it meant was, the users were spending less time, discovering events in the app, and the fact that they were getting distracted means that they were navigating away from the app, or they were moving on to other stuff, which is not good. So, how can we solve these problems? Well, as in our attempt to improve this performance, we managed to bring up some interesting stats in terms of user experience, and it so happens that if a user has to wait for over 4 seconds for your app to load, then they get distracted, or they can move on to other things. Apart from the frustration it causes, it also creates a perception that your app is of a poor quality, and the users lose the faith in your app. So that's something that we set out to address first. And the first thing that we went about doing was how we could replicate some of these scenarios, these real life scenarios, like how could we replicate a constrained internet connection that a user might be experiencing when they're on the road or while they're traveling, right? And this is where our good old friend Fiddler kicked in. Just want to get a sense from the audience, like, how many of you guys use Fiddler or seen Fiddler? Cool. It's a fair crowd, Right, so just very briefly, what Fiddler is it's just a tool that allows us to monitor HTTP connection that's happening between your computer and the internet. And what it also allows you to do is it allows us to simulate different bandwidth connections, and it's that feature that we have leveraged here. So for our testing, we decided to use the normal modem speed of 56 kbps modem speed as a base standard, and luckily that was what Fiddler's default standard was. But hey, in case that you guys want to simulate specific connection speeds, you can still do that through Fiddler. There are a whole bunch of extensions or plugins out there that does this for you, or you can use the extensibility mechanism in Fiddler, like the Fiddler script, to simulate this. Okay, so I want to share some interesting stats with you guys. So by having this set up, what we were able to find out is, like the home page of the app was taking roughly over 8 seconds or even more to load up, which is not nice. On a normal ADSL connection, it was taking up to 5 seconds, which was all right, but still didn't fit within the 4 seconds baseline that we were aiming to achieve. Now, what Fiddler also told us is that our data payload for the home page was over 600 KB, and that's not really nice, and that's probably that gave us a starting point, and which is what we went on to address next. So the first and foremost thing that we tried to do was do a little bit of HTTP compression. It's really easy to do, guys. I mean, if you're building an app, and if you're using the HTTP client API, it's really easy to do. It's literally 3 lines of code, and to enable gzip compression. But unfortunately for us, the event finder team, like the web server didn't really support compression, which was a little bit of a bummer for us. But this is we have communicated this back to the team, and they are working on getting this sorted. So really, the only option for us was to go about minimizing the data that we are fetching, and this is what version 1 of our app looked like. So I mean, what we're basically doing here is just making a call to Event Finder and saying that we want the first 20 featured events. All right. How we improved it is what you see in version 2 of the app. So what we're doing here is we are explicitly fetching the required fields. All right. So rather than fetching all the information regarding an event, we are only fetching the ones that our app is interested in. Now, this did make a big difference. So from a 600 KB payload, we were able to bring it down to 127 KB, which is great. Now, treading along the same path of minimizing data fetches, the next thing that we went about doing was to introduce an incremental data load strategy, or this concept of lazy loading. I'm pretty sure you guys are all familiar with it. But yeah, that was one of the other performance improvement that we have made. So a lot of the pages in our app, it was binding to a really large data set. So rather than fetching everything and then binding it to the app, what we decided to do was this incremental data load strategy, and basically fetch only the events that is visible on your current viewport. All right? Now, this concept, I'm pretty sure we are all familiar with this kind of concept. If you look at a typical website, they use something like the page control that we are all quite familiar with. Whereas in Windows 8, this is one option that we can look at. I'm not saying that you should always go ahead and implement this option, but another compelling reason to do this is the fact that the OS got strong support for it. All the controls, or the platform as a whole, was built with this virtualization idea in mind. So it's really easy to go ahead and do something like that. All your list view controls, like grid view, list view, they all natively support virtualization or data virtualization, and with very minimal effort, you can go ahead and build something like this. So just want to give you guys a real quick demo of this incremental load strategy. Oops.
That's fine.
Cool. If I just quickly bring up the app and navigate to, hopefully it still have internet connection. Yeah, it's not bad. Okay, so if I navigate to one of our second level pages, right, you can see that app loaded up pretty quickly. Now, as I keep scrolling towards my right, what you will see happening is you can see that little progress bar up at the top, and what that means is the app got the smarts to fetch the next batch of events automatically. So as you reach the end of the list, there's another API call being made, and you're then fetching the next batch of events, which is great. We just jump back to the slide. Cool. So what did it really allow us to do? So start off with, we were able to reduce our our data fetch significantly. We were not fetching the whole lot in one go, but we were fetching it on an as needed basis. And the second good thing is you're definitely saving on your data connection charges. And last but not the least, we are also reducing the load on the Event Finder service. Okay, so what does it take to really implement this? Well, it's really simple. All you got to do is implement one little interface on your data set, which is called the iSupport incremental loading. And this basically has two constructs. So one is the has more items, which is a Boolean property. What it basically means is, it is a Boolean flag saying that whether your data set has more events to load or not. So if you got more data to load, you return a true here. If not, you say, nah, we're done with it. The next method is the one that's doing all the hard work. So what's really doing there is that's where we are. We are actually making the call back to the EventFinda service and fetching the next batch of events. So the great thing about it is, this method gets automatically invoked by your list view controls. It got the smarts to understand that, hey, I've reached the end of the list, and I need a new batch of events to display on the screen. So all that complexity or all that plumbing work is done for you guys. It's as simple as going ahead and implementing this interface and just tweaking your data set slightly, and there you go. You got incremental load in your apps. So we have looked at how we can minimize the data we load and how we can improve the network latency. But we decided to take it to the next level, right? So what we have gone ahead and done is we have implemented, or we have made use of parallelism in our data access layer. So version 1 of our app looks something like that. So you can see that there's a whole bunch of method calls being made there to fetch the different category of events. You're fetching the popular, featured, and today and tomorrow events. But even though we are definitely we have to offload it from the UI thread and do it kind of in the background. But the fact that still remains that we're still doing it sequentially. So popular events and get today events basically only start making that method call once the featured events has been done. All right. So how can we further improve this? Well, it's really easy to do. All you got to do here is this is what we have done for version 2 of our app, and essentially what's happening here is all these different methods are fired off in parallel, and you're able to get a better throughput, and you're able to better utilize your multiple cores on your machine, and better make use of the multiple threads that's been available to you. Now, just want to give you a quick video of what difference it makes. So version on the left is the one that before we implemented parallelism, and the version on the right is one after we implemented parallelism. So as you can see, the one on the right definitely loaded up quicker. Even though by a couple of seconds, it is still something that we can really bring to our app relatively easily without having to change a lot or having to write a lot of code. Right. Just want to quickly talk about what we are planning on doing next. So what we have noticed is the fact that every time a user navigates to a page, we are making a fresh set of calls to EventFinda to get the events, and this is certainly something that we can improve on. So it's a work in progress. We are planning to introduce some kind of caching onto our app. So basically to reduce the amount of requests being read, and to reduce the amount of data being used. And there's a lot of caching frameworks out there, like Akawash, I believe, is the most popular one. But yeah, it's something that guys can think about when you build your own apps. Okay, so that brings me to the end of my section. Just want to give you guys a quick summary of what we've discussed so far. So on a high level, we talked about why performance was really important and why you should cater for as part of your application development, and not leave it as an afterthought. We also looked at how we can simulate different internet speed connections using Fiddler. It's a really nice way to do it. The fact that you don't have to modify your code to simulate a delay is great. Just run Fiddler up, and you're up and running. Then we briefly looked at some of the optimizations that we made. We looked at how we minimize our data fetches, how we introduce incremental scrolling to further reduce data payload. We also looked at how parallelism can further improve the performance of our app. And yeah, we briefly just talked about how you guys should be thinking about caching strategies in your app. Okay, on that note, I'm going to pass on the stage to Mohit. Again, just one thing I want to call out here is, look, it's not an exhaustive list of the different performance optimization that you could do. It's mainly ones that was really applicable to us, and I'm pretty sure there are a whole bunch more, and we are definitely interested in hearing from you guys, like what you guys are doing, and but just hold that thought. Just in the interest of time, Mohit got some really cool stuff to show on what we're doing on Windows 8.1. Okay, over to you, Mohit.
All right, thank you, Donald. So hopefully it gives you a bit of insight from going from sort of the business piece, going from the design, bringing in some of the technical pieces together. Hopefully gives you that whole breadth of what are the things involved in sort of bringing businesses or consumer-facing services to the platform. So what's next? 8.1 is coming on 18th of October. We are super excited with 8.1. I think it's going to be mind-blowing. So what we thought would be really cool is just to show a little sneak peek on what we could do with some of the APIs within our app. Okay, so this is not production code, calling it out, and hopefully it works. So we'll give that a shot. Okay. All right, cool. So we're going to switch machines here. So I've got, hopefully that sort of works. 5.
Yeah, awesome.
Cool. All right, so I've got a Windows 8.1 machine sitting here. Let's go ahead and see what happens. So I'm going to unlock it. This is a temporary pin, so you're not going to be able to use it after the session, by the way. All right, so the first thing the app has done is asking me, are you at TechEd, and do you want to check in? All right, so let's see, let's click on that, see what happens. Cool, so what we've just done is using the new geofencing API, because we have a list of all the events and the timings, we can actually put a fence around it. So as soon as I walked into TechEd today and unlocked my device, it's actually gone in and actually thrown a toast notification to check in. So very powerful, and this could be quite cool to use it in the app. All right, so here's TechEd. So TechEd's already on EventFinda. So thank you, Ryan, for that. So here we can see a whole bunch of information. So obviously you've given the user some extra information about where they're at and what they're doing. So that's quite cool. Let's actually go ahead and scroll further, see what happens. Nice photos, man. Nice photos. Good stuff. All right, so we've got this new piece called checked in, which we didn't have in the app before. So you can see that I've got a bunch of people checked in. So I've got myself checked in, I've got Donald checked in, and Ryan from the audience checked in, which is quite cool. Let's see what happens if I click on that. All right, so this is part of the new contacts manager. So what I can do there is actually start using the OS to actually send information and actually communicate with other apps around collaborating. So obviously I can send an email. Let's see what happens if I give Ryan a call. Okay, so it's gone off and opened Skype, and it's giving Ryan a call. So what I've actually done is I'm at a conference, and I've started collaborating with people based on this app. Okay, I think the Wi-Fi is a little slow, so that might not work, but maybe we'll give it a
couple of seconds. See
a couple of seconds. It's connecting. It's always a good sign. All right. Anyways, that's all right. I'm going to kill the app. I think we all get the idea. So start collaborating between different apps and communicating. So very powerful. You can also sort of start extending that. I think you can start building like things like Twitter. So you can start connecting with Twitter, that sort of stuff. Quite cool. The next piece I want to show you is, let's go back and actually click on one of these sessions. So today is Wednesday. Tomorrow I am coming in, but let's actually see what happens. So I've now got some sort of communication with the calendar API. So here I can pass on information. And this is quite powerful, so I can go ahead and add that to my calendar. And that's quite powerful because now what I've done is I've actually synced that appointment with all my devices, right? So very powerful to be able to implement that within your apps. And this is just this is just to have some thoughts going, and actually some of the things that you can use. So Windows 8.1 sessions on, I think, tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Check it out. I think you'll see more of this cool stuff there. All right, okay, so let's go back to the slides quickly.
Yeah.
All right, okay, cool. So let's have a look at some of the tips and tricks that we've got. So number one, develop your strategy up front, okay? If you're bringing a website forward, do you want to create the full functionality? Do you want to create the whole thing? Or do you want to focus on one particular workflow and do it really well? Okay, number one. Number two, get people to love the core functionality first. Okay, the app is not full functional. This is the first version. And the reason why is because we want to focus on this one piece, which is the discovery piece, before we start adding more pieces to it. Okay. Number three, quick and dirty mockups make a huge difference. Okay, when we were at EventFinda, having that app and having the clients actually play with it makes a huge difference. Okay, there's a lot of ways. So one way you could do is if you're kind of a designer, you could build some Photoshop mockups, put it in a scroll viewer, and actually get it out there. Very easy to do. Or if you're slightly more technical, get out that grid app, from File New Project, start playing with the sample data, and then just start targeting for the scenario that you're targeting, that you want to show off. User testing is key. Very cheap to do, and I would encourage all of you guys to do it. You'll learn a lot. Make sure your primary commands are discoverable. This was a key thing that we found in the design piece, and I think moving forward, I think Microsoft's done a whole bunch of stuff around that to make that more discoverable as well. And I think you should take some of the practices and actually bring it to your app. Build the snap view last. Okay, the design changes a lot of the time, and you're actually changing a lot of things over time. So having, once you finish all the design piece and building the snap view last actually will save you a lot of time. Performance will give your app an edge over others. Okay, you saw how Donald talked about some of the pieces we did for performance, and it's really going to make a difference between. It's going to be a subconscious thing for a user, but it's going to make that difference. Read the guidelines. Okay, can't force this enough. Read it. It will really, just spend a day on it, right? Spend a day, put it into the app, and you'll see the difference between a really good app and actually a not so great app. Also, I just want to call out, there's some really good examples on the store. Download them, check them out. It's a great place to start. When I started, a great place to start. See how other people are doing things. Please download the app and review it. Evaluate this session, please. You'll be going into a lot of prizes. I've met a guy in the speaker's room. He won this keyboard. Instant prizes. Literally, when they say instant, it's instant. All right, so plug for the DPE team. So they're doing some Windows app game competitions. We've got some speakers here actually from that. So we started our journey from an app competition, and so can you. Okay. You might, who knows, you might be building the next game is going to make, millions of dollars. There's some links there, so aka.ms/gamingcomp. Check that out. Some related content for you guys, so designing successful Windows Store apps, taking advantage of 8.1, so that's one of my colleagues, Mark Young, doing that. That's on tomorrow, I believe, and some of the other ones. You can find us later at the Hub, or you can tweet us. We'll be really keen to sort of
get your feedback.
Get your feedback, connect with you, actually take the conversations forward. Now, just conscious about time, but I think we have some time. Lunch is going to be on soon, so I know everyone's going to try and ramble out very quickly. But I want to open it up for any question answers you guys have. From you're from a designer, a technical, someone new, anything. So please, yes.
Yes, we can.
So that's a yep. That's a great question. And what I want to do is I want to actually, and this is a piece that I actually missed out in my demo, but I'll do a really quick one. So the question was, can I customize the app for my particular need, which is my city? Okay. So if I go back to the demo, okay. So here I've got featured events. So what I can do is I can actually pick a city, which is Auckland, okay, and actually pin that to the start screen. Okay. So pin that to the start screen. So what I've done is, okay. So there's my new tile. So what I've done is I've actually customized the content I want from the app, and surface that up to the start screen where I spend most of my time. Okay? And actually the key thing there is actually you click on that and you're actually deep linked within the app, so you can actually get away from the hub experience and actually go directly into the content that you need. And of course you can target different categories and that sort of stuff. Thank you, very good question.
Yep, just to add on to that, yeah, of course we can do something like you can use the geolocation API and find out where exactly, right? Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. Events. That's a really good suggestion. Like we want to bring that in, but yes, it is feasible. So what we could really do is something like use the geolocation API, find out where you are, and then even this category, like look how Mert showed. You had to select Auckland. Maybe you can default it to Auckland based on where you are. So that's certainly feasible. Yeah, I mean at the moment we have. We are actually planning on building this geolocation capability into the app. We also want to, so it's part of version 2 of our app, or it's work in progress. We also want to extend this to, US, Australia,
Singapore and Australia.
So EventFinda also got a good user base over there. So, but again, like due to time constraint, we had to cut it down. So at the moment, the focus was purely on New Zealand. But that the geolocation capability, the one that you just asked for, it's definitely coming. Yeah, definitely watch out for this space.
Cool. Anyone else have a question? Don't be shy, guys.
Come on.
Please ask a question. Yeah.
That caching, one of those caching frameworks you mentioned.
Yeah.
What was that one?
Akavesh. Yeah, I haven't played myself with it a lot, but definitely it's. I mean, from what I understand, it is. It's more like a key value, like a typical dictionary kind of style, right? But it's got a bit more capability in it, so you can specify that I want to expire this content after so much time. So say for example, if you're doing an API call and definitely got HTTP headers in it with expiry values, the framework is clever enough to understand. Okay, I need to expire this content after using the HTTP header, right? So Akavesh definitely suggest that. It's really easy to so I guess what it's using behind the scenes is it is storing it into a SQLite database. Yeah, so a couple of my colleagues have tried it. I mean, I haven't really used it in our app.
Why don't you follow us and we'll tweet you some other links. Cool.
Cool.
Yep.
You spend most of your time doing Windows apps sort of stuff. Is this like a primary thing for you guys now? Windows 8 apps, or is it just straight?
Yeah, I mean it's an interesting phase, I guess.
I mean, I think so. From our perspective, so this is something that we did outside work, out of our own time. I think moving forward, there's a lot of opportunity for this piece, and I think having something there on the store for a company is actually going to give us a sort of a head start in some way. You've seen sort of Marcus Studio; they invested a lot of time initially, and they've gone really big. So I think So I think moving forward, we'll definitely in this Windows 8 space. Yeah.
What is that, Mike? Sorry.
Do you guys have competitors?
No, not really. we are just two devs. Like we don't have a company or anything of that sort. We just.
No. In terms of apps, is there any other apps do the same thing?
Oh, right.
For EventFinda.
For EventFinda, I mean,
no,
I'm not aware of any.
Yeah.
So definitely the EventFinda team is not aware of any.
So do you consider to port it to other environments, iOS?
Yeah, we can. It's an interesting thing. So at the moment, EventFinda got something for iOS, I believe, but it's really native or really a basic version. I think it's more that they use more like a web view control inside an iOS app.
So, I mean, did you guys consider to port it
Uh,
to early development?
Not at this stage, but definitely yes, we will be open to that kind of an opportunity.
Sort of any tools you were considering?
I guess if you're looking for portability, like again, there's a strong debate in the community on which way you want to go about it. So most, like again, no particular preference. I just want to call that out. So the general trend that seems to be out there is like if you're looking at portability, it's more you build around HTML or JavaScript app, and you can use something like PhoneGap to run it on different platforms. But I guess there's the Xamarin framework or Xamarin platform, which allows you can still use C# code inside an iOS app, or like on an Android platform. So in terms of portability, yes, we can reuse some of our code, but really when you're looking at doing something like that, so the portability side of it is mainly from the code that consumes a web service or the code that do a whole bunch of our business logic. But in terms of a UI perspective, I mean, when you're porting apps, that UI side of it definitely need to be rebuilt. So I guess we haven't head down that stream yet, but hopefully should be all right.
Yeah, just interested in any tools.
Tools, yes. Xamarin, just check out Xamarin. Is that Xamarin?
Xamarin, I believe.
Yeah.
Xamarin.
Sorry.
Oh, Xamarin.
All right.
Oh, Xamarin.
Xamarin, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Any more questions?
All right, with that, we'll wrap it up. Thank you, guys.